What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we are going to be doing our Overwatch League 2021 playoff preview. I'm going to give you my thoughts on all the games that we already have slated, and then, of course, we're going to get out the crystal ball and kind of plot my way through the losers bracket and the rest of the round and giving you my thoughts on who's the champion of the 2021 season is going to be. Okay, doing it a little bit differently than I probably would have, but I'm going to be on vacation that week, so I'm giving you all of it at once. I would have probably given a little bit of a breakdown on things in smaller bits, but we're going to go over the whole thing. I'm going to throw it out there for you guys. Look on social media and comment down below as the matches are growing on stuff, and we'll do a little back and forth if you'd like, and I'll give you my thoughts, and you can see if I fail or, what's going to happen with that. Thanks for all of your support. All you guys that have been here, thank you very, very much. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. If you're new, just stopping by, checking this out, thanks for stopping by. Let's get to this. We talked about the play-ins on the last episode, give you my thoughts on what happened there, and here we are. We have our bracket set. We had the pick show. We talked about that a little bit, what teams are playing who and all that. So here's the schedule to start off on the 21st. It is kind of weird. They condense it down a lot. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. I don't mind the playoffs themselves being in a couple of days. I would have rather them, because they had to move to Hawaii, I guess they had to do something where they're playing it so the teams don't have to pay to stay in Hawaii for an extended period of time, I guess. I don't know exactly what it is. Or if, that's the amount of time they could get. But the grand finals are going to be the day after the final matches in the losers bracket. That's how that's going to work. I would have rather seen the grand finals by themselves on a separate, occasion, different, maybe not one day later, a couple days later, maybe, even if it was, I would have liked to see the next week. Here we are. This is what we got. So we'll see. It could be better than anticipated. You get a team that's hot in the losers bracket, and there's less time to micro analyze all of the things that the other teams do. So we could get a better game out of it this time around. Who knows? So, all right, let's get at it. So here's the matches in order. We got Washington, Dallas kicking it off. Then we have Philadelphia taking on the Gladiators. Then the Shock and the Dragons. And then capping it all off, we have the Reign and the Hunters. So let's talk about the first match. We have Washington and Dallas. All right, guys, this is going to be, all these games are going to be good, in my opinion, unless one team has figured something out in the week or so since we last saw these guys play, 2 weeks, I guess it would be. They all look pretty darn good to me. There isn't one where I'm going, this is going to be lopsided. All right, so let's kick it off. We have Dallas and Washington. This is going to be a great first-round match. Washington is really, really hot. If they continue to play like they did in the play-ins, up to their capability, this is going to be a very, very tough game for Dallas. We're going to go a little bit faster than normal too, guys. I usually like to break down a lot of matches and a lot of things I want to cover in this, but I just want to make sure you guys get to see where I'm at before we get into the playoffs. So Washington, back to them. Phenomenal play in the play-ins against the Outlaws and the Paris Eternal. They took care of their business against Paris rather easily. They went in, had a little trouble to start with Houston, but Houston's a good team. They gave them a battle in that, and the thing that they showed in that was they were hitting the W key. They were going faster. They were moving forward. They weren't reactionary. They were going along, in my opinion, at Decay's pace, which is let's get going. Let's hit W. Let's move forward. Let's dictate the pace of the game. And they were doing that really, really well. And especially towards the end of that match against the Outlaws. They forced their will on the Outlaws in the last couple of maps. And it showed. And if they can do that and continue to do that, they are going to be very, very hard to beat. And especially if Assassin is playing the Sombra and the Echo. He was playing some really good Echo stuff going on there too. If him and Decay get their stuff together and they played like they did it in the play-ins, Dallas is going to have trouble with them. We haven't seen Dallas play full bore, full force in a long time. Last time we saw them doing that, they lost to Chengdu. But I also think there were some fatigue factors going in some of that stuff. It was the third time in a row at the finals. It grates on you. It really does. All through the year, though, Dallas has been the mainstay in NA, the benchmark, the top team. You have a slew of role stars, MVP candidates, all of that kind of thing. You have Fearless, you have Hanbin, you have Fielder, Jexay, Sparkle, and you have Doha. All of these guys are playing at an unbelievable level. Their cohesion is fantastic. And all right, Pine's there, sure, okay. I doubt we're going to see it unless we get into some kind of an oddity where we're going to need long-range hit scan. That would be when you would see Pine, in my estimation. But Dallas has proven in the past that they can make their own meta. They can do essentially what Washington was doing, was just force their will onto Washington. Now, if we get into a thing where we're playing a lot of rush and things like that, it's going to be tough for me to go against Dallas because they kind of created that sim teleporter scenario with the Lucio Moira and all of that. That's kind of their bread and butter as far as that. If Washington wants to get into that battle, they might be in for a little bit of trouble there. So, honestly, if you look at it, Washington might want to get them, even though Fearless is really good on Monkey, you might want to get them into some games, matches, scenarios where you're playing Monkey. Obviously, maps dictate the whole thing. But I would rather see them get into some of that stuff and do some of the things that they were doing against the Outlaws. Maybe, well, they were running some Rhine too and all that. But in order for Washington to win this and beat Dallas, they're going to have to essentially beat Dallas at their own game. The key factor there is going to be Decay versus Sparkle. And also, in my estimation, is going to be Fearless versus Mag. What's going to happen there? I think the way they're playing right now, Hanbin and Fury are kind of a wash. Maybe a little bit of a lean towards Hanbin because he's just insane on the flex support. Flex tank. If you get into more of the tail of the tape, I would have to lean heavily on Dallas's supports. Baby and Closer are pretty good, but they're not going to control a game. They're not going to take over, which is fine, and it suits Washington's playstyle well. You know, they're feeding resources in the places where they need to, and they're not dying. That's all they need to do. Dallas has playmakers, though, in the support line, in my opinion. Yeah, Closer had some good moments and stuff like that, and Baby to an extent, but in this match, the finality, at least my pick in this is going to be, I'm going to take Dallas 3-2, and then they move on to the next match. And then that sends Washington down to the losers bracket. Okay, so next match up, we're going to have the Fusion versus the Gladiators. I like both of these teams a lot. I like what the Fusion did against Seoul. They showed a lot of different looks, a lot of good, solid gameplay that we expected from them early on in the season. You know, they got the components there. They have the best support line in the league. Not far behind, probably, would be the Gladiators, maybe a little bit lower. But I like Alarm and Funny Astro a little bit better than Shu and Scooter Moth. They're all really good at what they do, and I just think the Fusion have a little bit better tank lines. Muse Space, Mono, and Hotba, I think they're about even there. I think Fusion went out a little bit on DPS in some spots with Carpe, Shockwave, and EQO. Kevster and Birdring are really good. You throw in Mirror for sometimes. They might be playing a little bit more Mirror in here. We get a little aerial game going. Honestly, the way I see it, I really am looking towards the Gladiators tank line, to me, has to set the pace. Space has got to play like he did in the Countdown Cup and just be all over people and just playing insanely good Diva and whatever else they have him on. Now, Fusion, it's hard to say what they're going to run. They could run Diva, they could run various different things. Same thing with the Gladiators. Muse and Mono are kind of even right now. Recency bias is throwing Muse in there in the equation for me a little bit. However you want to look at that. But I think the thing with the Gladiators is I think they're in a positive role. They got over that hump. They got that monkey off their back. I think their tank line can dictate some things here. Like I was kind of saying there. The Fusion are going to be in the match no matter what, because you have Funny Alarm? Okay. Funny Astro and Alarm. I just made a weird ship there. Funny Alarm, Astro Alarm, whatever you want to call it. they're going to keep them up. And, that DPS line is fantastic for Philadelphia. But I think the Gladiators is really good, too. I think Kevzer's great. Birdring. Sometimes you get Birdring in these pressure situations. He plays really, really well. So, and Mirror is kind of another factor in there that, we're not going to get into too much right now because we don't know if they're going to be using him, playing him, or what they're going to be playing yet. And we'll see initially when this match starts. So I am leaning towards the Gladiators in another close match, 3-2, possibly all the way to the end. And I think the Gladiators just edge Fusion out a little bit. I'm not saying Fusion's bad, but what I'm saying is I think in this matchup, the Gladiators take them 3-2. Next match up, we have the San Francisco Shock and the Shanghai Dragons. This is a match we've been looking for, been waiting for it since last year. And, the Shock hadn't made a Hawaii trip. The Shanghai made every one except for the last one. And, Shanghai, they backed down a little bit on the scrimming and all that kind of stuff. They wanted to kind of rest guys, and they did that, and they worked on some things too. Much like Dallas, I've been saying, Dallas might not have been trying hard, but they were trying out things in these matches. And I think Shanghai was doing that. They got some guys some reps that maybe it could be necessary. Doubtful, but are you going to really sit Void or Lip or Fleta? I doubt it. Anyone for that matter on that team. At least right now, you're not going to be subbing them in and out. But the Dragons, I think, are ready to go. They're primed. They're, in my opinion, the best team in the league, bar none. Well, maybe not bar none, with a few contenders and people that are close to them. I just think that when they're playing their all and they're clicking on all cylinders, there's no one that can really beat them badly or in a pressure situation. They're generally going to come out on top in my mind. So here's my thoughts on the Shock. Took the kind of the quote-unquote easy route in the play-ins, but why wouldn't you? They wanted to get some of these guys in some of these games because, they have guys that aren't quite used to it yet. Glister, Nero. Yeah, okay, you can count last year, I guess, but really, can you? They got Ons back in the flow now. You got all this stuff going on, and you have, of course, these veterans and these guys that are, used to the pressure, playing in big games, all that stuff. This is what they, quote-unquote, live for, right? But I am going to take the Dragons in this. And here's why. I think Fate and Void right now are clicking better than Smurf and Choi Hyobin or Super and Choi Hyobin, whichever combo they run. Also, there's a lot of questions I have with how they're rotating San Francisco. It seems like it's all over the place. You have times where you have, they're rotating out different guys on the support line and on the DPS line, and it seems like it's all over the place. Obviously, if you're running Lucio, you're going to want to run FD God, but they're in and out, and it seems like they don't have as much cohesion as they normally do. They lost coaches and stuff like that, but they look better in the play-ins than they have really all year. They were confident. They went out there with swag. They went out there with purpose. They took care of business. They did the things that they had done for the last 2 years, and as much as they did that, I just like Shanghai better in this. And to me, it's just this year. This year, Shanghai is playing at a level that the Shock were achieving for the 2 years prior. They are playing on that level of confidence, skill, cohesion, coaching. They have all of the things just lined up, and the way they play is just unbelievably good. When they're not throwing matches, but when they're resting and all that stuff. When they're on their game and they're invested in the matches, they are insanely good. And I don't think the Shock have played a team like that yet this year that is on their level. Yeah, okay, Dallas. I'll give you Dallas. And at occasions, maybe Atlanta or something like that. But Shanghai's a different animal right now. They are hungry. They are ready to go, and they want this championship badly. Not that the Shock don't want the three-peat, but the Shock aren't on the mission that the Dragons are on right now. That was 2 years ago with the Shock. The Dragons are on this mission. They're on a redemption arc. They're burning everything around them. They picked the Shock first for that reason. They want to go through this and prove to everybody that they're the best by playing the best teams and all that. And they're confident in what they're doing. And they're good enough to be able to do things like this, and I think they're going to pull it off. So I like Shanghai in a 3-1, close 3-1, 3-1 still. Okay, that leaves us with the last match of the first round. The Rain and the Hunters. We've seen this before. Look, the Rain. These are the two teams that do whatever they do, right? They try to make you bend to their will, and they don't change often off of their normal picks. Chengdu loves running ball and stuff like that. Rain do the rush, and they do the Orisa stuff. This is going to be an interesting battle again, where Chengdu has taken them before. I really like the way Chengdu played throughout. Yeah, they didn't finish matches off in the Countdown Cup and in Summer Showdown, but you know what? They did a fantastic job, and they just are playing at a level that I didn't expect them to be at. Same thing with Atlanta, too. I thought Atlanta was going to be middle of the pack, kind of meh. They've shown that they're really, really good, and they just had an unfortunate thing with Pelican not being able to play on normal ping and all that stuff, and they lost out in the Countdown Cup. But that doesn't mean they're bad. I think they're top level. I think they're probably, NA-wise, they're probably in the top 3. You have to put them there, right? I mean, that's kind of where I had them. I think I had them there in my postseason rankings. Chengdu is very high, too, in those rankings because they play really well. They play their style. They play it good. And people think that they have an idea of how to stop it and stop guys like Jinmu on the Pharah, stop Gaga on the ball, slow down Leave. Their support line's underrated. And, honestly, in this match, even though Atlanta's playing well, Gator and Hawk are playing fantastic. Their support line is playing better than I expected. Their DPS line's insane. I just think Chengdu gives them fits, and they're just a thorn in their side. And I think Chengdu just has a way of beating them. And I'm going to take Chengdu 3-2, sends Atlanta down to the lower bracket, into the losers bracket. Chengdu will move on to the next round. Okay, so we've gotten the matches that we know about out of the way. Let's hit that crystal ball and spy into what I'm thinking. What I'm going to do is we're going to just go over all the brackets really quick. I'm just going to give a quick thought on why and what. All right, so let's hit we'll hit the bottom bracket first. All right, first match that I have down there, we have the Shock and the Fusion. Shock, we talked about. Fusion, we talked about all these teams. I think in this matchup, Shock, tank line, going to dominate, maybe not dominate, be a little bit better than the Fusion here. I think it's going to be close. I would not be shocked either way, but I took, no pun intended. I took the Shock in this one 3-2. I just think the Shock have a little bit more in the tank. They're ready to go. Philadelphia is good. They're really good, but I just think the Shock are a little bit better right now. Like I said, this could go either way. It would not shock me if the Fusion beat them, but I'm taking San Francisco 3-2, eliminating Philadelphia. Next match in the elimination bracket, I have Atlanta taking on the Justice. Atlanta, I'm going to go with in this 3-2. I think some of their stuff that they do gives Washington fits, and I really think that Gator and Hawk right now, even though I have them losing to Chengdu, I think Gator and Hawk can control this match, along with Pelican and either Kai or Edison, whoever they put in for whatever they're doing. I just think it's going to be a match and a little bit more experience, a little bit more cohesion with Atlanta, in my opinion, on this. And I am going to say they beat the Justice 3-2. So next up on the docket, per me, we have the Dragons taking on the LA Gladiators. This one, I'm going to take Shanghai 3-2. A lot of the reasons I said before, I think that Lee Jae-gon and Izzyaki are going to work their magic. Yeah, Shu is great, skewed, Moth, but I just think those two are a little bit better. You throw in Fleta and Lip right now. I think those are the four people that are going to determine a lot of what goes on in this match. And, with Lucio back in the mix, you have Lee Jae-gon and doing his thing and all that, depending on if they run it or not. But it's going to be really hard pressed for me to pick against the Dragons at all in this in this tournament whatsoever. So I got them going 3-2 in this. Gladiators drop down to the bottom. Next match, Dallas and Chengdu. Third time's a charm for Dallas. I have Dallas winning this 3-2. I think they figured out the Chengdu zone, and I think that they can do what they need to do now after watching it, playing a little bit more ball, getting their guys into comps that can counter that or mirror it. I think that they can do a very, very good job of beating, keeping up with them, and I think they win 3-2. Sending Chengdu down to the bottom and Dallas into the winners final. Okay, next elimination rounds. We have the Shock versus the Hunters. Okay, I'm picking an upset in this one. I'm not going to go all chalk, guys. I have the Chengdu Hunters winning this 3-2. The Shock have not seen them. They do not understand. They might understand. They do not understand. They have not played them at all. I don't know if they're going to be able to handle the frenetic pace that the Hunters run their comps at, and some of the things they do with the Pharah and the way Jinmu plays stuff, the way Leave plays. I don't think they're going to be ready for that. I think it's going to be a very close match, and I really think that the Hunters are going to just squeak one out in the end. Maybe on control in the last bit of the map. Wouldn't surprise me if San Francisco wins, but I'm going to take the Hunters in an upset here, 3-2, on the back of Leave, Jinmu, and we're going to go with that. I mean, Shock across the board probably have better players, but I think timing is everything. Hunters are playing at a level we didn't expect them to play at, and I think they're going to continue that and beat the Shock. All right, next up on the schedule, we have, at least on mine, we have Atlanta taking on the Gladiators. I like the Gladiators in this 3-1. Close 3-1, 3-1 still. I don't think they're going to get behind too much. I think they know what Atlanta does right now. They can counter it. They can play along with it. They have the tank line to deal with the aggression that Gator and Hawk play with. And also, I think their DPS line can handle going up against Pelican and Kai or Edison, depending on what they're running. And I do give the edge to the Gladiators a little bit in the support line with Shu, Moth, and Skewed. So I like the Gladiators in this. Close 3-1, but they're going to 3-1 them still. Okay, takes us to the winners finals. We've seen this before, the Dragons and the Fuel. I mean, there's a certain point where it ends up being that. I could have gotten cheeky and wacky and thrown some shit out, but I'm trying to be honest with you guys how I see it. I could have made some false narrative and said, I think Washington is, take Washington all the way to the finals. I mean, it's not that it's not plausible, but I'm going with what I've seen, what I think, and how I think this is going to play out. I know a lot of people are down on Dallas. A lot of people are down on Dallas in the beginning of the year, and I backed them up. I said, this team, there's no way this team is not going to be in situations where they're going to win, and they have been winning because they have the players to do it, and they have a coach that's smart as fuck, and he's going to get them there, regardless if they have a hit scan or not. I think they're going to be in this position. Shanghai, we've talked about it. They're on their mission to go to win the finals. The whole thing. Go from the worst team in the league, Season 1, to the last iteration of Overwatch 1 in the Overwatch League, being the Grand Finals champions. That's what they want to do. Redemption arc to the match. We've seen these two teams go at it. It is a fun, fabulous match to watch all the time. Every time these two teams play, it's close, and I think this is going to be no exception. I have the Dragons 3-2. Shanghai trying to fulfill their destiny, doing the things that they've done to Dallas before. They can counter them on every side of every angle, and I think this year it's just, at this point, after losing the first one, it reminds me of the Shock when they lost to the Titans, now face off against Dallas again, and I think they're just a little bit too much. They edged them out in a map 5. Shanghai moves on to the grand finals. Dallas moves down to the losers bracket. All right, let's go on to the next elimination round one. I wanted to do that one first. Next elimination round match. We have Chengdu taking on the LA Gladiators. I think this is the end of the road for the Hunters. The Gladiators beat them before. They know the sauce. They know the formula. They know how to get to this team and slow them down and beat them. That doesn't mean Chengdu is not going to give them a fight and a war and do all of the Chengdu-y things that they can Chengdu out of this. Because that's what they're going to do. You're going to probably see a moment where you got Ameng and Leaves out, and who the fuck, they just go find somebody else. They go find Bacon Jack and throw him in on DPS just for fun. It could be, whatever. You're going to see some weird comps. But the Gladiators know what's coming. Experience the zone. They've been there. They've beaten it. And I think they're going to do it again. Behind the same guys that did it before. Space, all over the place doing his thing. Kevster and Birdring just eating them up. I think it's going to be a great match. Shu doing his thing. Hopefully they have somebody spying Shu for the behind the comp amp matrix scenario. But anyway, That eliminates the Chengdu Hunters. And then finally, the elimination round final, the losers bracket final, Dallas Fuel, LA Gladiators. I'm kind of torn on this because I've been riding the Gladiators all year. But I am going to go with the Fuel 3-2 in this. Sparkle Doha, I think they're going to do their thing. And also, I just, Hanbin and Fearless, I think, are way better than Muse and Space. Not way, but better. I think they're going to do a lot to them. And as good as I tout the support line of the Gladiators, Dallas is as good, if not better, with Fielder and Jaxay right now. They're fantastic. I think they're just, overall, both of these teams are great. Two of the best teams we've had all year long. Gladiators proved a little bit more late. Dallas a little bit more early, but still doesn't matter. They're still great teams. I like Dallas 3-2, and I think it's going to be the Sparkle and Doha show. They want to get to the final, and not that the Gladiators don't, but I have more faith in Dallas in this match than I do the Gladiators. Dallas 3-2. All right, so grand finals. I have the Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel. I know, boring, guys. I want my picks to be right. I could have done, like I said, I could have done weird shit. I could have had the Shock and the Hunters in there, but I don't. Or, Washington, San Francisco, Atlanta, and the Dragons or something like that. These are all possible scenarios, too. I'm not ruling them out, but I had to go with my head and not the inner parts of my heart and my guts and all that stuff. Although I am kind of rooting for Shanghai, even though they're the best team in the league. I just want to see them complete the arc and complete the arc of Overwatch League in Overwatch 1 by going from worst to first. It took them 4 years. They got there. So, without further ado, here we go with my prediction, guys. I'm going to go with a similar final score to the last time in the winner's bracket final. Except I'm going Dragons 4-2. I just think it's their time. I just feel it deep down that in my head, looking at their players, this is going to be an insanely good match. It's not saying that Dallas won't win. I say this about all these matches, but my thoughts being that these two teams know each other. It's been a narrative all year, and I think the Dragons are just a tick better than Dallas. Even though I have them 4-2, I just feel as though it could go 4-3. We could have like an insane 8-map match or something like that. Who knows? But deep down inside, I think the Dragons are the best team in the league. I've been saying it since day one. These are two of my top 3 teams. I had the Shock up there because I didn't think the Shock were going to be mediocre-ish. But this is how I see it. I have the Dragons beating the Fuel 4-2 for the Overwatch League Championship in 2021, completing their 4-year arc of being the worst team ever in esports to being, in any sport for that matter, to being the champions of the last year of Overwatch League on Overwatch 1. All right, guys. So that is going to do it for my playoff prediction preview show. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to do. Don't forget to comment down below, guys. Let's hear what you have to say. I didn't really go out on a limb too much. I just like Chengdu and the way they've been playing, so I made them go a little bit farther in the losers bracket than most people would. It is what it is. But that's going to do it. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. Everybody that's been out there giving me support, subscribes, all that stuff. Thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you guys. If you're new, thanks for stopping by, checking me out. If you could hit hit subscribe, do the YouTube jazz, that'd be fantastic. All right, guys, this is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the playoffs and the grand finals. And I will talk to you on the next one. Probably Monday after they're done. See you guys.